All right, great, thanks guys. So welcome to Jamesway's Webinar Wednesdays. Our topic today is 5 things you may not know about Hatchcom. I am Victoria Frail. I'm the Training and Documentation Manager here at Jamesway. I'm joined today by 2 members of our customer service team, Curtis Lipinskis first, who is our ventilation and ventilation controls expert, and Ronald Rojas, who is in customer service and is probably the person you speak to whenever you have anything going wrong with your incubators and hatcheries, be them single stage, multi-stage, anything out there. So welcome guys, and thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure everyone is comfortable with the controls. In your upper left-hand corner, there should be a little control panel. The first button there is your settings. That's going to give you your audio and video settings. So you can check in on that there. There is the Q&A panel. That's where you can send us questions that we can answer on air. So they'll pop up on my laptop here and I'll be able to read them, and we'll address them as soon as we can. If we don't get to your question on air, we will respond via email. It could be that we need to speak to someone else in the company and check in on that. Then we have the chat. I see a few of you found the chat already. You guys can chat amongst yourselves, ask other questions there. Maybe send us some extra information about your question if we're not quite understanding what it is. And then the final one is that raise hand. I love it if everyone could give me a quick raise hand just to make sure everyone's found the panel and is hearing me and is ready to go. Thank you guys. So today's topic is all about Hatchcom. Hatchcom being Jamesway's hatchery management tool that we have. It looks at all your incubators and hatchers. It can look at your ventilation data, and is a super powerful tool. We just want to make sure that everyone is aware of all the neat features that it does have. So I'm going to go ahead and put up our presentation here. There we go. Everyone should be able to see that. So 5 things you may not know about Hatchcom. And what those 5 things we're going to go over today is the first one being the alarm screen and screen report, which is where we sort of think most hatchery managers should be starting out looking at Hatchcom, giving you a good snapshot of your hatchery. The second would be the alarm callout system and some features associated with that. The third is graphing, how to make that graph concise and show you exactly the information you're looking for. The fourth being ventilation and ventilation monitoring integration through our Guardian control system. And the fifth being how to back up your database, which is an essential monthly maintenance that we need everyone to be doing to keep your Hatchcom working as well as it should. So Ronald is going to start us off here with, whoops. Curtis is going to start us off here with the alarm screen system and the screen report system. Curtis?
Okay. So normally people use the hatchery layout screen as the most convenient way to view all the current conditions of your hatchery. But as hatcheries grow in size and you start bringing in things like ventilation, it can be a little bit cumbersome to navigate through all that information on one screen. So there are 2 other types of reports that I believe are really powerful substitutes for the hatchery layout. That's the alarm screen and the screen report.
Great.
Okay, so the alarm screen will display any alarm associated with a room or a hatcher or an incubator, anything that is actually just communicating with Hatchcom III. The current alarm types will display to the right of the appropriate machine. Any alarm that has been cleared or acknowledged then disappears. So this will let you see anything that is wrong currently in the hatchery or what has gone wrong. There are 3 different types of alarm states that you will see in this alarm window. Flashing red is a new or recent alarm that's currently happening. Red text is an alarm that's either been silenced or bypassed, but the condition is still occurring. And black text is a past alarm or alarm history. As soon as you acknowledge the alarms, anything that's in the black text will disappear.
And those formats match what's shown on the machine state screen, correct?
Yeah, the machine state will show in the exact same way, and that machine state you can also acknowledge and silence alarms from there. The other one is the screen report, which will display all the current conditions for everything in the Hatchcom, and can be filtered based on whatever preference you need or want to see. So you can. So this is when you open a screen report, this is the screen you will see with all the equipment listed on the left-hand side and all the current conditions in rows or columns on the right.
And this shows you both your ventilation and your incubators and hatchers, or we could sort that as well, right? Using that previous screen?
Yeah, or you can access that from here too by right-clicking, and you can change the sort or preference. So you can have the screen report only show ventilation, or the screen report show just single-stage incubators, or you can even isolate it down by a room number.
Okay.
I like that the screen report is useful because you can then right-click on any of the machines that are in that list and get more detailed information. Like you can go in and see the alarm report for past 24 hours of any alarms that have occurred, numeric reports and line graphs. One is just a graphical representation of what's in the database, and the other one is just a table of all the information. Both are useful in troubleshooting. But yeah, you can, if you right-click anywhere on the screen report screen, you can bring up a menu where you can go back in and adjust the screen report viewing options, I guess you would say.
Okay.
And you can have multiple screen reports open at once. So you can have one that would just be for ventilation, one for single stage incubators, and you can navigate between them. The one benefit I like of the screen report is it can show you current condition and the set points all in one. You can't do that in the hatchery layout. Hatchery layout is just current conditions, that's it. Yeah. That was it.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions on that part? I hope you're all using that right now. I think we will go ahead and look at the alarm callout section. Ronald is going to go over the callout system and some of the customizations you may not know are available in it to use. Go ahead, Ronald.
Thank you, Tori. Okay, alarm callout. So one of the best feature of Hatchcom is its ability to notify you of any ongoing alarm through various means of communication. The alarm callout is a feature of Hatchcom which automatically calls people from a list of phone numbers or send out email when an alarm occurs. The user can program which alarm trigger Hatchcom to initiate a call, and also the period during the day when Hatchcom is to call. This presentation focused briefly about the basic hardware setup, program setup, and other important functions setup. Okay, there are two types of alarm callout, as you may already know. First one is the phone callout, wherein the user will receive a call, and when answered, they will hear 4 beep sound. The second one is the email callout. The user will receive an email indicating the alarming machine, and the specific alarm for the particular machine. Now let's jump to the phone call out basic hardware setup. Well, the most common device for this setup is the USB modem external hookup. USB connected phone modems is the most popular device because it's a plug-in type and easy to set up. Well, a designated phone line must be provided for this setup since call out will not work if phone modem is doing some other stuff. So just to show you the the phone modem that we've been using. We're not trying to promote US robotics, but this is the brand that we've been using and proven to be working in the field. So the US Robotics 56K USB modem delivers the performance and reliability US Robotics is known for in a compact, flexible form factor. This controller-based modem integrates powerful communications processing functions into the modem itself for assured performance without sapping your computer's processing power. It is also broadly compatible across various Windows operating systems. Well, the 56K USB modem is backwards compatible with all and will negotiate the highest possible speed when connecting to a service provider. So that means even if you have an old Hatchcom, this device will be compatible. So after installing the required hardware and installing the device driver, a test can be conducted in the callout option setup. We would know if the modem was detected by Hatchcom if the name of your modem and the model number is displayed in the modem drop-down menu and the properties becomes active. So in this example, something is not right. This one should be active. I will check probably the model number, and this one should turn active. So you may then configure the modem in under the properties. Please remember, all setting configurations must be referred to the device installation guide. Be sure to check the callout enable. Okay, after your hardware has been configured, you may now set the phone numbers and emails for Hatchcom to call out. If you only have a phone callout, you don't need to put any email address. Lastly, under the phone callout program setup, in the alarm setup, we recommend not to select all the alarms. Select only the most critical alarms you think are necessary to call out. Selecting only the critical alarms will give you a more conclusive alarm call out. The most critical is the high temperature, fan failure, low temperature, and no RAM RTZ. So you may then simulate an alarm test to check if your phone call out is working. Now we go to the email call out hardware setup. Using the email feature requires that the computer connected to a permanent internet connection to access a reliable email server. Configured NIC, or we call it network interface card, which usually comes built in with a PC, will have to be connected to Office via Ethernet cable. So the illustration shows Hatchcom PC connected to network access wall outlet. Please note, this part of installation connecting to network may require the assistance of your network administrator to obtain the necessary authorization. After the hardware has been installed, configured, connected to active working network, we can now proceed to the Hatchcom email configuration. Fill out all the required information, which are usually provided by the service provider, the email service provider. So when done, execute a test to send test email to all email addresses in the list. So receipt of test emails confirms that the email feature is working. Now we go to the other functions for callout. In 2015, Hatchcom software version 1.6 was released, and perform callout test was added. It can program to send out an email notification on a specific day and time of the week. Each day you specified, you will get a notification to let you know if Hatchcom callout is working or not. If nothing was received on that specified day, that should be the user responsibility to conclude that something is not right and must do the immediate check. The other one, the last but not the least, function, dial mode only if failed to send email. If your Hatchcom is equipped with email callout, we are recommending to have this unchecked to allow the phone callout and email callout both work without restriction. In other words, you will receive an email and you will also receive a phone call. The email comes first, is the priority to be sent out, then followed by the phone call if it's active. So this allows the user to see which machine and alarm has been activated, but still get an alarm notification by phone call in case the email is delayed or lost. And most of all, email callout provides a more detailed information. So you will not be wondering what's going on with your hatchery once you receive the phone call, because the email will confirm what's the exact problem going on in the hatchery. So you will set 2 call entries for the same person. The first one to send an email. The second one is to place a phone call. So that concludes the call out. Thank you.
That's really interesting. Thanks, Ronald. If anyone is wanting to set that up and you're not really sure how, just give us a call here. Ronald should be able to help you walk you through that, or we can even use TeamViewer to jump in if something isn't making much sense there for you. Now we're going to go to graphing and how to make your graphs a little bit more powerful, a little bit more useful on a day-to-day basis. Curtis?
Okay, so I think the best use of the graphing capability of Hatchcom is for troubleshooting issues, and doing that with the normal enabled features of the graphing can look a little bit too much information. It can be hard to isolate. But you can generate a line graph for everything that is communicating with Hatchcom, whether it be ventilation, an incubator, a hatcher. So after you would select a room, you can use the graph scales tab to adjust the y-axis, so you can zoom in on the data and just show an appropriate range. You can use the display box and turn off that information if you're not trying to diagnose what's happening with that. So it's all about isolating and just displaying pertinent information to what you're trying to find out. You can also use the date ranges to narrow down the x-axis, or how much information is displayed at once. I think that ranges from anywhere up to like 12 days down to 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You can also adjust whether you want detailed information of, in this example, what the ventilation is doing. Like you can display it as whether something is on or off, or as a percentage of how often it has been on in the last 5 minutes. So if you're trying to diagnose temperature, you can turn off the events for humidifiers, dehumidifiers, and fans, and that will zoom in on that data so you can more closely identify the times related to the temperature or whatever issue. So here is a plenum, and there's not like a lot of information in a plenum, but you can what I wanted to show here is that from the plenum line graph, you can go back in. If you right click anywhere on the graph, you can zoom in on the information. You can move to another type of machine or ventilation.
Mhm.
So this is a default graph of what you would see for an incubator room or a setter room. And you can see it's a lot of stuff all at once.
It's pretty overwhelming.
So if you use those features, you can eliminate the things you're not trying to see, and you can zoom in. You can also adjust the ranges to bring you in even more. Each little dot is a 5-minute increment. So if you were to double click, whoops, that's not Hatchcom. Sorry. If you were to double click,
Sorry, everyone.
what it does is it shows all the pertinent information to that dot down in the bottom, so you can see if heating, cooling was on, what the temperature was, the min and max temperatures in those ranges. And you can also, it's useful for just diagnosing why heating or cooling didn't come on. Something that most people don't know is that if you leave a line graph on the screen, rather than just plotting a dot once every 5 minutes, it will trend the information continuously. So you'll be able to see what happens in that 5-minute interval graphically.
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah, and this nice rearranged graph can be really useful for us, for Curtis here, in terms of changing the set points in your system, in terms of delays and that sort of stuff, and fine-tuning your ventilation. So if you have several graphs showing an issue maybe that was happening in your ventilation, you can send those in to us, and from them we can sort of judge what needs to be changed in terms of the configuration in your equipment. Maybe we need a longer delay, or maybe we need to speed up that PID loop, something like that. So Hatchcom really gives a lot more flexibility and a lot more power in terms of looking at trending than what we had in our previous software. Kind of tied into that, we just want to make sure that everyone is aware that our Guardian control system is now integrated into Hatchcom III and into that interface. So now you can have your incubator, hatcher, and HVAC data all in one place. And Curtis can go through with us a little bit more on how that works.
So once you're in Hatchcom, you can, if you're familiar with using it, machine state is probably one of the most common windows that you will use to change your set points. But that same machine state now applies to ventilation. So you can access that through the menu or from the toolbars, and that will let you change the set points for ventilation and modes of operation. So everything that's communicating with Hatchcom will pop up in a window, and that's where you can select what equipment you want to see or isolate down for specific types. Like for large hatcheries, this list can be quite large, so that's where you would use the filters to try and figure out.
For sure.
So in the machine state window, you will have a status, and the status will show you what's currently happening, like whether heating, cooling, humidification, etc. And then there's also the environment settings, which are your temperatures, humidity, actuals, and set points. If you were to double click, the alarm window. Anything that goes to the alarm report screen will also show up in the machine status. So this one has a past alarm that's been cleared, or not cleared, but it's no longer occurring.
Right.
So if you were to double click on the environment side, that's when you can get to your set point configuration, and that lets you adjust the temperature, humidity set points. It also gives you the ability to enable or disable dehumidification and humidification, override fan speeds and dampers, and there is an advanced tab which will let you do some more fine-tuning kind of things. Like it'll allow you to set a minimum maximum damper position or fan speed. If we need to add humidity slowly to the room, we can set a duration for pulsing the humidity into the room, which keeps you more stable.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the biggest feature, I would say, or most useful, is the scheduling. So any HVAC equipment or any HVAC room can be scheduled to follow machine profiles. I think the most useful one, especially in hatchers, is profiling the exhaust plenums to help dissipate heat throughout the hatching process.
So in that case, we're going to actually increase our plenum set point as we produce, as we go through the hatch cycle.
As you get to the last 12 hours, you would slowly step up the differential pressure by maybe 10% every few hours. Another feature of HVAC scheduling is for process rooms. So like a chick room is not used every day, or a transfer room is not used every day. You can set that in the schedule to automatically shut off that room when you're not using it, and then you can turn it back on the day before or a few hours before and bring it back up to comfortable working conditions. So once you enable scheduling on the panel or the room, you can set up to 2 set point changes or modes of operation per day. You don't have to use every day. You can disable a second time or a first time on a specific day, but what will happen is it will continue to run the previous set point until the next checkbox.
Right.
So that you can set up a schedule individually for each room and each plenum.
So now 2 set point changes a day. That doesn't really seem like a lot. Is there anything coming down the pipeline?
Hatchcom IV, which I think is January release, that will have 10 changes per day. Let's see.
Wow, that's a big step.
Because that was one of the biggest feedback for people with the scheduling is that they liked it, but they needed more adjustments.
Okay.
Because depending where the hatch window falls, you may not have enough time to set. Like just the 2 a day may not be enough to encompass the whole.
All the changes that you want, yeah.
Changes they want, yeah. And also there is, rather than being able to set by pressure, Hatchcom IV, we will add fan speed override. So rather than, just like in a machine, you can profile on a CO2 or you can profile on a damper. You'll be able to do that with the plenums or dampers. You can, instead of profiling on a pressure, or scheduling on a pressure, you can schedule on a fixed fan speed.
It's exciting.
That's the thing. If you want the schedules to work, you just have to make sure to click enable. So this is again the machine state window. It has a little icon that will show you if the room is currently using a schedule. If you were to click on the icon, it takes you to the schedule, so you can make adjustments or you can turn it on and off. And the real nice thing about the scheduling is that whatever you enter in, it will continue to repeat that every week. So you don't have to go back in every week and
revise it for the next week.
It just does it all automatically on a week-by-week basis. And that's scheduling.
That's great. And that sounds really interesting, having a lot more points. I'm sure there's many customers out there who will use it. I can see a few are on with us right now. A few of you have sent in some questions about alarming. I think we'll just get to those at the end, and we'll actually pull up Hatchcom if we need to and show you that sort of stuff. So if you guys don't mind waiting a few more minutes, we'll just finish off the actual slide deck here. So now we're going to talk about Hatchcom database backup, and this is something that is super important from a monthly maintenance standpoint that everyone should be doing to ensure that your data is saved. And Curtis will agree, I think. For whatever reason lately, we've had quite a few customers have some issues, mainly because they're not backing up that data. And we will be sending out a technical bulletin, I think, on this fairly soon as well, just to make sure that you all have the steps and the procedures on how to do this. But you guys are kind of getting a first look at what you need to be doing. So Ronald's going to take us through that.
Okay, thank you. So Hatchcom database backup. So let me start with this picture, which I know everyone can relate on how frustrating losing everything simply because you did not back up. I'm not referring to anyone in particular, but every time I receive a call, I can imagine they're doing this. Okay, simply speaking, a database backup is a representative copy of data. When the original copy is lost, the backup can be used to reconstruct lost information. This may sound very simple thing to do, but there are still some Hatchcom users who forgot to include this simple task in their to-do list. Computers nowadays are very complicated. It's doing so many things that we never asked them to do, and all are very prone to failure. And the best thing we can do is to simply back it up. So there may be dozens of reasons why we need to back up, but it falls down in two main purposes. The first one is to keep a copy of database for future use. Second one is for easy restoration of database in case it gets lost, just like what Tori is talking about a while ago. So when doing the backup, there are three things to remember. The first one, know what you need to back up. Second one, back up in organized manner. The third one is set up a reminder when to do the backup. So knowing what is being backed up. So do you really need to back up a month of data, 2 months of data, 3 months of data, or a year of data? Is your hard drive big enough to save all the files? To avoid overloading your hard drive, we recommend a month of data and do the backup every month. The default days is stored is 32 days in our Hatchcom setup, in which case your backup must be done on the 30th or 31st day of each month. Don't forget to back up, because after the 32nd day, the database will start to get overwritten. You may want to know how much data your machines have collected in 1 month to give you an idea if your hard drive size is more than enough. So going to the backup, there are two types of backup. The first one is the quick backup, and the second one is the organized backup. So the quick backup is for those individuals who does the backup as they remember it, or when they feel like doing it. Sorry about that. The current database will be backed up in the default directory drive C under temporary file. Later, he may or he may not move the backup file to somewhere safe, since temporary file is not the best place to save everything or anything. In your Hatchcom program, go to File, then Preferences, Hatchcom Database Archive, and then click on Backup Database. It's so easy to do.
You have to make sure nothing else is displayed on the screen, or else that
Exactly. That's right. You have to close all the
Close all your
Hatchcom
windows.
windows. You don't want anything accessing your database when you're doing the backup. Thank you, Curtin. So now we go to the recommended way of backing up, which is more organized and less chance of screwing up the backup. You will see in this procedure, the backup will now be saved in your specified directory, already organized on the day you created the backup. As a note, make sure that the directory already exists. Otherwise, Hatchcom will give an error message.
So make sure that folder that you want to save it in is there.
Yes.
Right.
So
Okay.
we now go to procedure on how to create the file directory. So in this example, I created my backup in my documents. I named it Hatchcom Backup and created the subfolders for each month of 2017, starting from January to December. Be very careful and make sure you pick the correct subfolders, as you don't want to overwritten any previous saved backup. However, you will be prompted if the subfolder has been used already, and will give you a chance to change it. This is just one way of organizing your backup, and there's some other way to customize it to your likings. Now, you need something to remind us to do the backup. If you work on your computer all day, you might forget to get up now and then stretch. How much more if you only have to do it once a month? Will you remember it? So there are all kinds of third-party tools or software that allow you to set reminders for yourself. But you can also use the Windows built-in task scheduler, which is already available and waiting to be activated. So I tried it myself to believe, and it worked for me. So to open your task scheduler, open the Start menu and type Task Scheduler in the search box. Click on it, and you will be guided on how to activate it. So just to show you how it looks like, when I set up my monthly reminder for 1 year, good for 1 year. So I set the date, the month, and the time of day that I want to receive a reminder. Since then, I never missed any scheduled backup. That concludes the Hatchcom backup. Thank you.
That's really interesting. I've never even used that task scheduler. I didn't really realize Windows had that. So thanks for that tip as well, Ronald. And it is one thing also to think about that maybe you are not just backing up specifically to the hard drive on your computer. Maybe you're backing up to a network location, or if you don't have a network located computer, maybe you're backing up to some sort of cloud software like a Dropbox or an Amazon Drive or something like that. Because if your computer does completely go down for whatever reason, you would lose all that data, whereas if you had it located in the cloud or in the network somewhere, then you would still have that data available. So that's another tip to sort of think about. So we do have a few questions already on alarming. The first one is from Mark. He is asking, is there any way to add another contact line on the call-out list? He's finding that the 5 is not enough for phone numbers and emails.
Hatchcom 4?
Hatchcom 4?
I don't remember that one. We'll have to look into that.
We can definitely check with Renee on that, and probably if it hasn't been added, still ask for it to be added maybe. I think it's going to be worth trying that at least.
How many he wants?
How many backups does he want?
Maybe 10.
Yeah, how many do you think there you guys would need? If you all want to just shoot us a note in the chat and let us know how many you think you would like in terms of backups.
Yeah, because if you think about it, you have to set one for an email and one for a call or a phone call, so you'd only be able to do 2 people at once.
Yeah, 2 people and a half.
Half person.
So Mark is saying that he thinks 10 sounds good. If anyone else would like more than 10, please let us know, and we'll see what we can do about getting that done for you guys. Tony, I'm guessing that's Tony from the last webinar. Welcome back. He's asking, is it possible to set the email or calls on alternating weeks to call different people on the different weeks they're on call? That's a great question. So can we set it up to call Curtis on the first week of every month, then me on the second week of every month, then something like that?
I don't think so. Probably in Hatchcom IV again.
We'll talk to Renee. That's a great suggestion. I really love these suggestions. We'll see if we can get something like that added, that you can have some sort of rotation.
He will have to do it manually for now.
Yeah, so for now, he'd have to go in and change it every week. So you could use that task scheduler, right?
Yes.
Just schedule yourself a reminder to change the call outs. But yeah, I guess that's the only way right now. But we'll see if we can do that. Terry is asking, can Hatchcom report the alarm when it's actually dialing out, such as a turn fail or high temp? So instead of that 4 beeps, can we get some sort of data without having to look at email? Or maybe the person who gets the call out doesn't have an email or a phone with email on it.
You know my answer.
Well,
Not right now. We'll see.
they could use something like the remote desktop connection to the Hatchcom computer.
That's true.
So when they get the call, then they can use their remote connection and then see the alarm.
Yeah, that's true.
Notification of an alarm, right?
Right. So you could use a team viewer or something like that to remote into the computer that is running Hatchcom and be able to see it from there. And TeamViewer even has an app for your phone, right?
Yep.
So you could even use the app from your phone if you're not anywhere nearby and you don't happen to have your work email on your phone, or you're that person who doesn't get an email, just a phone call out.
Well, we used to have the pager before, but it's already outdated.
Yeah, not many people use pagers.
Yeah, that one gives more information,
Okay.
alphanumeric information,
Okay.
but it's gone.
Okay.
Sorry.
What about text? Is text coming, do you think? Like that would work. What you can do actually is some phones, you could do like your phone number at your service provider. You can contact your service provider about if you can have an email address for your phone, and then you can actually get that email in as a text to your phone.
Yes.
So that would give you more information. I know most of the phone providers here in Canada have that. I assume most other ones would, because we generally don't have the best sort of service here. Terry is asking, oh, sorry, we just did Terry. I'm lost. Mark is asking, if you have an older version of Hatchcom, should you still be backing up?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Definitely, yes.
The backup will store, if you have multi-stage machines, it'll store if you're using profiles, it'll back up the profiles, it will back up the hash
Data,
layout, and the data. That's the 3 things that are important.
Yeah, so if something does crash there, then we can restore sort of your layout and that sort of stuff without having to completely rebuild it, or?
It's not necessarily if it's crashing too. A lot of computers get old and you have to migrate everything to a computer. So
Yeah, when you get a new computer.
Install a fresh copy, put in the latest backup.
Are there any, this is from a Mark, are there any quick link buttons on the main screen of Hatchcom that are not in the drop downs? Do you want me to switch to?
Quick link. Like an icon.
So are there any icons here, or do you maybe mean like the sort of like Control A, Control R type things, Mark? I'm not sure.
Yeah, because so there are some things, like common ones, that have keyboard shortcuts.
Right.
But and a lot of the things that are most commonly used can be accessed in a right-click menu as well. So this is an egg room, so I can right-click and I can see alarms. I can go to the machine state, or I can go right to changing a set point instead of going machine state then changing set point.
Right.
I can adjust the schedule, see graph, numeric report, or jump directly to screen report.
All right, sounds good. Derek is asking, is it possible to do scheduling, for example, you're very welcome, Mark, switching off the compressors and heaters when hatchers are off in hatcher bays to save on energy costs?
Well, that would, yeah, and so if you were to do,
So we don't have turning off the HVAC units available, right, for incubator and hatcher rooms, because typically those are 24-hour ventilation rooms.
yeah, but what you can do in that instance is just change the mode of operation. So if you're not concerned about temperature at that state, you would just, depending on if it's warm outside or if it's cold outside, you would just select the opposite feature.
Okay, so if it's summer, I would
If
pick
it's summer,
heating
I would
only
pick-
because I'm not gonna need heat, and so now the
Because you're-
AC can't come
Yeah,
on.
your outdoor
and heat's
air
not gonna come
is
on.
going to provide you with heating.
Right,
And it'll never turn on the compressor. Yeah.
right. That makes sense. So that's one way around it, and then at least you still have that fan going, especially if you need to maybe do a dry out in your hatch room after wash or something like that. Tony is asking, is there a setting in Hatchcom 3 to show days and hours instead of days and hours as a decimal?
So in like setting a profile. Or is-
And setting a profile?
I don't know. That one I'm not sure of.
Let's see if we can find that for you.
So he wants it days.
Days, hours instead of the like
I'm not sure on that one.
18.5.
You go to machine.
Because if you go to a machine and you say, you're more familiar with the machine side.
So you go to profiles. So here.
We'll see if that's something that can be added in Hatchcom 4 as well.
You have to select.
It might be a little, I can understand why you would want something that might be a little clearer. And if it does exist and we're just not familiar with it, Mark has chimed in and said, no, there isn't. He's looked for it as well. Well, so if that sounds like something useful to you guys, we'll take that down to Renee as well and see what he can do. It's probably not a huge change for him. But
You got so many things to do.
we've given him a big list.
Yeah.
He's on vacation this week too, I think. It's gonna be exciting for him. So if there's any more questions, please drop them in the Q&A. Thank you everyone for attending. This is a great turnout, seeing lots of names that we're familiar with here. So thank you guys and gals. And I just want to let you all know, if you've been to the Jamesway webinar Wednesdays page recently, we've added a new special edition webinar. It is in 2 weeks from now on October 25th, I think is the Wednesday that week. And it is in Ask Us Anything. So this is going to be completely a roundtable discussion. I'll be moderating as usual, and it's all about your questions. So there'll be no slides, there'll be no advanced sort of presentation. Jump on, send us all your questions about incubation. I'll be sitting with Jerry, Philip, Lynette, and Bill. So we'll have our whole technical group together, and they'll be able to go over your questions and I don't know, maybe come up with some neat new ideas. Having the 4 of them together is always an interesting day. And yeah, they can chime in on all of your questions about incubation and running your hatchery. And yeah, so that should help. I did have a question myself from that presentation. Curtis, with this scheduling, is there anything that our technical team is currently recommending in terms of profiling your ventilation in your incubator and hatcher rooms?
I don't think there is any.
Not right now.
current recommendations right now. It's all based on user preference and what you're hatching
What?
incubation cycle is.
what you guys are figuring out. I know it's something that Philip has sort of talked about being interested in, so I think they'll be looking into that a little more eventually, with all their free time they've got out there. So again, thank you everyone. I think we're going to drop the registration link for the. No, we're not. Sorry. If you just go to jamesway.com/webinar-wednesdays. You can find all the future webinars. They are up there. Also, if you have any ideas or any topics you would like to have in our next webinars, or if you'd like an advanced question, or you think of a question afterwards, you can always email us webinars@jamesway.com, or give Ronald, myself, or Curtis a call. We're here up in Cambridge, and there you go. There's the link to the to our overall webinar page where you can. That went to all panelists, Krista. Sorry. It'll come to you guys all in chat in just a second there. Thank you again. Let us know any feedback. It'd be great to hear from you all. There you go. Everyone should have the Webinar Wednesdays link in the chat now. So if there's no final questions, we'll shut it down. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.